All right, let's dive into one of the world's oldest and, frankly, most profound intellectual traditions. I want you to imagine a library of texts so vast, so complete, that it wasn't just about stories. It was an entire blueprint for reality, for society, and for the ultimate purpose of life itself. So you gotta wonder, right? How did this collection of scriptures, put together thousands of years ago, create a blueprint for a meaningful life that's so detailed and has lasted this long? Well, to figure that out, we're gonna have to unpack this thing piece by piece. Okay, so our journey has to start with the foundation, and that is the Vedas. Composed somewhere between 1500 and 500 BCE, these weren't just books in the way we think of them. They were more like the source code for an entire civilization, passed down orally, word for generations before they were ever written down. And the name itself, well, it tells you everything you need to know. Veda comes from the Sanskrit root vid, which literally means knowledge. And we're not talking about just academic knowledge here. This was considered revealed truth, the ultimate sacred wisdom that could guide, well, every single aspect of existence. Now, this vast body of knowledge was organized into four main collections. You've got the Rig Veda, which is really the core text, packed with hymns to the gods. Then the Samaveda takes those same hymns and sets them to music, turning them into these incredibly powerful chants. The Yajurveda is kind of the how-to manual, giving the nitty-gritty details for the rituals. And finally, the Atharva Veda is almost like a guide to daily life. It covers everything from spells and prayers to practical wisdom for the average person. And what's so cool is that the way the literature is structured, it's like a journey in itself, moving from the outside world to your inner world. You start with the Samhitas, the raw hymns. Then you get the Brahmanas, which explain the deep meaning behind all the rituals. After that, the Aranyakas, or forest texts, shift the focus inward towards meditation. And it all culminates in the Upanishads, which just dive headfirst into the biggest philosophical questions about the nature of reality. So, okay, we have this incredible ancient library, but how does all that knowledge actually translate into a practical blueprint for living? Let's take a look at how this wisdom was applied to structure not just a person's life, but society as a whole. First up, they mapped out life into four distinct stages, or ashramas. Think of it like the four chapters of a really well-lived life. You start as a student, totally focused on learning. Then you become a householder, taking on family and social responsibilities. Next comes a period of retirement, a gradual withdrawal from the world. And it all leads to a final stage of complete renunciation, where the only goal is the search for spiritual liberation. Society itself was also structured, but by function. The Varna system divided people into four main roles. You had the Brahmins, who were the priests and the teachers, the Kshatriyas, the warriors and rulers, the Vaishyas, who were the merchants and farmers, and the Shudras, who provided all the essential services that kept society running smoothly. And this is huge. I mean, this is an absolutely crucial distinction to make. The original concept of Varna had nothing to do with what family you were born into. It was based on your innate qualities, your guna, and your actions, your karma. It was meant to be a system based on merit and what you did, not on who your parents were. Now, holding up all of these social structures was a set of invisible cosmic laws. You can think of this as the rule book that governed not just society, but the entire universe and every person's place in it. At the very heart of this rulebook is a concept called Rita. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like the universe's operating system. It's this invisible, fundamental law that makes sure the sun rises, the seasons change, and that our moral actions have real consequences. Living in harmony with Rita was the whole point, and this powerful idea later evolved into what we know as Dharma. And to stay in sync with this cosmic order, the idea was that every single person is born with three fundamental debts. First, a debt to the gods, which you repay through worship. Second, a debt to the ancient sages, repaid by learning and then sharing that knowledge. And third, a debt to your ancestors, which you repay through your family duties. All of these duties and laws were really there to help you achieve four balanced goals for a complete and full life. The foundation, the bedrock, is Dharma, living righteously. But within that moral framework, it was totally fine to pursue artha, which is material wealth, and kama, which is pleasure and enjoyment. But here's the thing. Those first three goals were all meant to point you toward the ultimate aim, moksha, or total spiritual liberation. And that brings us to the philosophical peak of this entire system, which we find in the Upanishads. This is where the focus shifts dramatically away from society and duty and zooms in on the ultimate nature of the self and how it relates to the entire universe. Okay, so here, everything basically boils down to two central, kind of mind-bending concepts. On one hand, you've got Brahman, the ultimate reality, the single, all-encompassing universal consciousness that is the source of literally everything. And then on the other hand, you have Atman, that's the individual soul, that private little spark of the divine inside you, the true self that exists within every living being. And this leads to what might be the single most profound declaration in all of human philosophy. Atman is Brahman. The individual soul isn't just a part of the universal reality, it is identical to it. Think about it this way. A drop of water isn't just in the ocean. The drop of water is the ocean. This means that your innermost self is one and the same with the very fabric of the cosmos. You see, truly understanding this identity, this oneness between yourself and the universe, is the key to that final goal we talked about earlier. It's the whole purpose of the entire system. It's the destination that all the rituals, duties, and philosophies have been pointing to all along, moksha. So what is moksha? It means liberation. But liberation from what exactly? From samsara, that endless and, let's be honest, exhausting cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. In this tradition, achieving moksha isn't just a nice to have, it's considered the highest and ultimate purpose of being human. It's the final release from all suffering and all limitation. And getting there isn't about just one single action. It's more like a combination of paths. It takes deep philosophical understanding, or jnana. It takes the steady practice of meditation, or dhyana. It means cultivating a sense of detachment from all the ups and downs of the world. But ultimately, all these paths lead to one single destination, that direct personal experience, that moment of self-realization, when you know, not just believe, that your Atman is and always has been one with Brahman. And so that's where we land. We've gone from an ancient library of knowledge to a blueprint for society and a map of life. And it all leads to this one staggering philosophical conclusion, which really just leaves us with a final question to think about. If the self is the universe, how does that change our place in it?